was going to a grade school, and there was a huge olive tree outside, and we were told we were going to get to work in clay that day. And I remember the level of my excitement. I don't remember ever being so thrilled before, and have no understanding why I was so thrilled about the idea. But I remember the teacher coming out. I was already thinking of all these things I wanted to make with the clay. And I was so excited, and when she brought out the clay, she told us we all had to make a tortilla and put our handprint in it so we would go home to Mama. And I remember being horribly disappointed. I was very depressed over that. I was thinking of bugs and all sorts of things I wanted to make with it. And I remember being very disappointed. It was such a wonderful idea to make this, to do this ceramic work and work with this clay underneath this beautiful old olive tree that was in the front of the schoolyard. Yeah, I was still very much into science and so forth, but always dabbling and always staying with art. And in high school, I remember junior high and high school having a lot of fun with clay and ceramics. Just loved it. It was just a fun place for me to play and explore my own feelings and creativity as a kid. I started studying it formally when I went to college. And I took some classes in college, and it was apparent that it was a different level of education. It was much more formal, and there was a lot of study involved, and I thrived on it. I started to really learn what ceramics was all about and the real potential that was available to me, and that really turned me on. It's a vehicle by which I seem to enjoy expressing that adventurous exploration of my own life. That I relate to everything else around me, the people, the places, my love of nature, and as well as what goes on with all of us. It seems to reflect back into the work. And it gives me a wonderful opportunity because the vehicle is so limitless to what you can do with the medium. That it's just a wonderful place to play with kind of an adventurous exploration into life's textures. Most of what I do it's mostly experimental and investigatory to challenge myself to find out more about how to do what I conceive to do, or work with that particular type of clay, or that particular type of firing, or that technique, or all of the above. And in the case of those indigenous pieces, back to my love of nature again, I started digging clay and finding clay all over the place, and started to challenge myself to use the clay without adding anything to it, which is normally what's done. You add some grog or some sand as a binder to help hold the clay together and give it some tooth, so you can actually work with it and get it to do what you want. So I started to challenge myself to just use the indigenous bodies as I would find them, and it gave me a great sensitivity to that individual clay body at that particular location and how different they all were. And these particular pieces, the concept came out of, the series came out of this relationship between us and our technological world, in particular the medium of television. I saw television as this incredible tool for education and information, and yet it seemed to be used for a lot of manipulation and subversive stuff. And so the series came out with, again, a background in pre-Columbian art, and even doing some archaeological digs and work with archaeologists to draw on format as well as the digging. These things related in a similar way. The warrior priest who is very connected to nature and his enemy, both directly and indirectly, and he's discovered that the television is his enemy. He realizes that television is this vehicle by which it's been used to play and manipulate him and his kind. So he's cut the head of his enemy off, but as would be true in so many cases in life, there were hidden gems within his enemy, that it wasn't just all bad. There were wonderful potentials, wonderful possibilities for the use of the medium. And he starts to discover that, hence the hidden containers that are in those things, as well as in his chest area and his heart area for the hidden jewels. That I would dig semi-precious stones and stuff on many of my hikes and stuff, and they would go into those those pieces representing those jewels that he had in his heart for the best of intentions for what he felt he had discovered and what he was doing in killing his enemy, which is often the case from our point of view, and then the same thing in reverse, that the enemy really wasn't all bad, that there were gems that he didn't see that are really hidden in it that he could have utilized another way. There's a connection that I always like having my wear somehow theoretically usable. There's some potential use to that, even if it's a form that's thrown on the wheel. There's a deep connection back to the idea of it, at least theoretically, being usable. A bowl seems completely timeless to me. It can be used for so many things, as well as probably one of the most elegant forms I've ever found. It can be very, very simple, very beautiful in its simplicity, and yet, along with that elegance, it can be very complex in the way it's thrown, how thin it's thrown, the control of the medium itself, the glaze that goes with it, and the beauty, its openness to like an open flower, showing all of its color. In the funniest sense, and yet in a real way, she was my girlfriend. It was, I had a great love of Beto, and Beto was incredibly warm and good to me. It was one of those very unusual things that I don't know how to put, other than here was a woman who was in her 90s when I met her, and there was no sense of age. And that's just a remarkable feeling to meet somebody who, at first, of course, we notice the package, and this person's older, this person's younger, and it goes into the back recesses of your mind, and there's some relationship. However the relationship develops, there's always a connection to that. It would seem, at least that's been my experience in most of my life. But where Beto was concerned, that wasn't there. It was often that I would be talking with her, and I had no concept of this woman being that age. It was the soul of this woman, her mind and the way she thought, and this spark of her spirit just left her age in a closet. And a simple one of the letters she wrote to me, I'll never forget, when she reminded me at the end of the letter, she said, "And Richard, remember where you are concerned, I'm only 35. And that seemed very true. She was just a very remarkable spirit who I was incredibly fortunate to have in my life. And hence it was very difficult not to relate to her like a 35-year-old woman. So she was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun together. Richard's, again, a very interesting guy who I met quite a while ago, and it was in fact, we were talking about this while I was setting up the show with him, about how unusual that kind of spark is when you meet somebody and you feel like you played in the sandbox with him, or you grew up with him at different times, in different places together. And that's what it felt like. We couldn't get over how so much of the work paralleled similar directions, and how what we saw in his paintings he was seeing in my work, and I would see in his work. He's a very intelligent guy, very talented, obviously, but has a wonderful spirit that's very playful, and I felt very familiar with, as if we had been kids together. So we were laughing about that while we were setting up the show, as if we had been raised in different places. We grew up in different places together. And the tricycles were part of that stimulation because of that childhood freedom, and running down to your best friend's house and knocking on the door saying, "Can so-and-so come out and play?" It's just like we have a familiarity to play in the same sandbox together. Something about this place that, since Beto has left, and the energy that still seems to flow out of this place, it's a continuance of that very unique energy that Beatrice Wood emanated from this place, and obviously there's still a lot of Beto here. I so much agree with Beto. One night I asked her, I said, "What's become most clear to you, Beto, after living almost 100 years?" And she paused for a moment, and she said, "The lack of compassion." I think that goes back to what I was saying about how the interesting energy that's really contained in us as human beings, that spirit, and how protective, how careful we are about letting that out anymore, especially in modern times, and how guarded reserved we tend to be. And even in saying this to you, I'm challenging myself to really, say how I really truly feel inside.